Hello again, everyone. This is John Collin here, and today I'm going to talk about the event of air pistol itself. This is my first video after my introduction, so I figured my first one I should talk about the actual event of air pistol. I know a lot of people saw the memes that went around after the Olympics of the Turkish hitman use of Dikeç or some of the other shooters, but they really don't know what the event actually is. And one of the reasons for that is because there's actually two phases to a competition. There's the qualification and then there's the finals. And the only part they show at the Olympics on TV is the finals, which is a shame, I think, because only the top 8 shooters out of a field of maybe 35 or 40 will make the finals. So a person can train their whole life, make it to the Olympics, compete in the Olympics, and not even be on TV if they don't make the finals. So I wanted to talk about the parts that you don't see, as well as what you do see, and how air pistol works as an event. And it's very similar to a lot of the other shooting events. There's 3 disciplines, if you want to call it that, of shooting. There's pistol, which is what I do. There's rifle, and then there's shotgun, which is done, of course, outdoors. And of pistol, there's 2 Olympic events. There's the 10-meter air pistol, and then there's, for men, the 25-meter rapid-fire pistol, where you shoot at 5 targets in either 4, 6, or 8 seconds. And for the women, they just call it 25-meter pistol, but it's usually called 25-meter sport pistol, where there's actually 2 different phases. There's 30 shots done. It's called slow fire, where you have time to take careful aim. And then there's rapid fire, which you have 3 seconds per shot, and the target is larger. So it's quite different in that regard. And then the finals of the sport pistol, they only do the rapid fire. But first thing I thought I'd do is I'd show off what the actual apparatus looks like. So this is my air pistol. I actually have 2. This is the first one that I bought. And this is, it's a mechanical trigger. I ended up buying a second one that has an electronic trigger. But this is basically what they look like. They're very different from any firearms that you might know if you have any, 22 caliber or 9 millimeter firearms. They definitely look different. The biggest difference is this, which is we call it the cylinder. This is actually the tank where the air goes. And it goes up to for this one, about 250 bars. And a bar is about 1 atmosphere of pressure. So it's very, very high pressure in here. And it's regulated like a scuba tank. So that means that as long as you're up above a certain threshold, which I think is about 90 or 100 bars, you'll get the exact same amount of air coming out of it with every shot. The pellet comes out of here. You actually can fire it by opening the action, placing the pellet in there, and then closing the action, and then it'll be ready to fire. Of course, I'm not going to do that from my chair here. And the sights, I'll show a picture of the sights here. This is called open iron sights, and open means that there's nothing above the target. Everything is below the target. So what you want to do is you want to get a good sight picture. And once you get that, that's when you pull the trigger, and hopefully to pull the trigger without moving the sights, because then that's where you get the really bad shots. And then this is the grip. Usually you have, especially at the top levels, you have custom-made grips. This one is out of the box, but I have, you might see on here, I probably will include a close-up. I have some clay that you just put in the oven, and that molds to your hand, so that really makes it a nice, good fit on my hand. On my other gun, I'll show a picture of that. I actually had a custom-made grip. I flew to Germany. I made a whole vacation out of it. It was my first time ever going to Germany. I had always wanted to go, and had a great time while I was there. And I got a custom grip made. And then you'll usually see on a lot of shooters, they have stickers on the side. And what that is there are certain requirements that a pistol must meet. For one thing, the trigger pull weight must be at least 500 grams. If it's any less than that, it's illegal. I've actually been in matches where people, fortunately not me, have been disqualified because they inspected their gun after a match and it failed the test. It fired at less than 500 grams. So that's one inspection that they do. In some matches, what they do is there's restrictions to how large the gun can be. So they'll put it in a standardized box and make sure that they can close the lid. If they can close the lid, then it passes. And also there's a weight restriction. I've never seen any that come really close to that. The weight restriction is 1.5 kilograms, or about 3.3 pounds. This is a fairly heavy gun, and it's still below about 1.2 kilograms. So I've never seen a gun exceed that, but you can add weights to it. You'll see up here, these are called barrel weights. These 4, 2 on each side, came with the pistol. And then my coach actually custom made these 2 for me that are a lot heavier than these 2. And they're brass. And what I like them for, every shooter will be different. What I like them for is I put a lot of weight up front. It is harder to hold. It takes a lot more wrist strength to really keep the point up when you have a lot of weight there. But I find it does make it move a lot less. It really damps that for you. And what they fire, it's not bullets. I'll show a close-up, but I'll show it how small they are. It's these pellets. This is how tiny they are. They're 4.5 millimeters across, and they're called wad cutter pellets because the front is flat, and it makes a nice clean hole through paper. And that's what they fire. And in a match, typically a match will be done either on paper targets if it's a smaller match, or they do have electronic targets. In electronic targets, it's basically just clear paper, and you shoot through that, and it uses lasers to triangulate where you hit. Some of the older ones will use sound. It'll actually hit another black piece of paper that's behind that, and it'll triangulate based on the sound where the target hits. So I'll show you what the target papers look like. This is the target. This is what you see, and the black part is worth 7 points if you hit it. You'll see they're concentric circles. The absolute smallest is called the inner 10, and then the second smallest is called the 10 ring. And you only have to touch it. If a pellet just barely nips the ring, you get whatever score is of the higher circle that you touch. And the purpose of the inner 10 is used as a tiebreaker. In a regular qualification match, it's still 10 points. And if your scores are tied at the end, then they use inner 10s as a tiebreaker. And you shoot at this from 10 meters away. So it looks really small when you're 10 meters away. And you take 60 shots. So the maximum possible score is 600 points. And world-class shooters, like the absolute top medal winners, will get typically in the 580s, low to mid 580s. The gold medalist at the Paris Olympics scored 579. Typically, to make a final, the cutoff, depending on the match, if it's an international match, can be anywhere from 577 or so to, in the World Championships just a month ago, it was 583, which is a very difficult score to get. At the Paris Olympics, the cutoff was 577 to make the final. The gold medal, the guy who, Xie Yu, who won the gold medal, scored 579. And then in the finals, it's basically a brand new match. You get 24 shots. Only the top 8 scores get there. And then they use decimal scoring. So the score, the target that I just showed you, if you just barely nip the 10 ring, you get a 10.0. If you hit it in the absolute dead center of the target, you get a 10.9. And it's graded between that. It's done electronically, so it's automatic. And the Paris Olympics, the winner scored 240.9 points. Typically for a World Cup or World Championships, the scores will be a little bit above 240, maybe 242 or so. I believe the world record for either men or women is about 246 point something. So those are very difficult. You have to average better than just getting a 10 to get those kinds of scores. So you have 75 minutes to take 60 shots in the qualifications. And you can take that at your leisure. You can take breaks in between if you like. And I usually do. Standing very still for a long period of time can be very tiring, particularly on the knees. Especially if you're a big guy like me. That's one of the reasons that I do want to make this channel be about weight loss as well, is because the less you weigh, the less stress you're putting on your body as you're standing there. I generally take only about 6, maybe 8 shots at a time before I either go sit down, or sometimes I'll even leave the range. I'll go to the bathroom to splash water on my face or something like that, just to get my legs moving and make sure that I'm not getting too stiff, because if I get stiff, that's when things start to get wobbly. So it's an important part of training to come up with good tactics for how you will approach a match. You want to know your body, know when you perform best. I do a lot of training where I'll take 20 or more shots at a time, and I'll notice when my scores kind of start to dip a little bit, and that's when I'll limit myself in a match. So if I've taken about 8 shots, even if I'm feeling pretty good, I'll probably take a break. I won't sit down, even if I've been getting a string of 10s. I'll sit down, take a little break, and maybe walk away and then come back and reset myself. You're also allowed to do what's called dry fires during a qualifications part of a match. You cannot do this during a finals, but you can during a qualifications. And it's a good way to kind of warm yourself up and get yourself set. So right now I have this. There's a switch on this one that's safe or fire. It's currently on safe. So that means if I pull the trigger, all you're going to do is get a little click. And that's it. It won't fire anything, and you're allowed to do that in a match, and it doesn't count against you. And sometimes people, after they've been sitting down, their first shot will just be a dry fire. That way they can make sure that they're all set and ready to go. If you put it in fire mode, and normally I'd plug my ears because this may not be as loud as a firearm, but it is pretty loud, and you'll hear. And that's the air being expelled. And if you expel air in a match, regardless if you even put a pellet in there, that counts as a shot. So if you forgot to load your pistol and expel air, sorry, you get 0 for that shot because you didn't hit the target. You do have to be very precise with that. Sometimes there are mechanical errors with a pistol. Sometimes there are errors with the target. I've seen in matches, one of the first matches I ever went to that had an electronic target, the woman in the lane next to me, about halfway through the match, I saw her raise her hand, and next thing I know, she's not shooting on that lane anymore. And I caught up with her after the match, and she said, yeah, the computer said I scored a 3, but there was no hole in the 3 ring of the paper. So because that wasn't her fault, they canceled that shot. They put her on a different lane, and she was able to continue her match. So how electronic targets work, they work just like these targets, except there are no actual concentric rings here. It's all done electronically. And the black part is just a hole in the paper. So it looks black when you're at a distance. And you really can't tell the difference between an electronic target and a paper target from a distance, because when you're shooting at a distance, even if it's a paper target like this, you'll see how small the lettering and numbering is from here. You probably can't even see it on the screen right now. It just looks like a black area, and that is what you're aiming at. So that's how air pistol works. In most matches, especially if it's just a small local match, you only do the 60 shots and that will be it. You'll be done, especially if it's done on paper targets. Most of the little local matches that I do, they just take 60 shots and whoever has the highest score wins. But there's an old story about, I believe it was the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, maybe it was 1984, where, I'll have to look this up, but I think it was a monarch, I think he's from Finland, where he was a VIP at the Olympics. And he asked his entourage to take him around to the different events. And there was a top shooter from Finland who was competing in one event. And they were shooting at paper targets. And the way they did it, and the way they do it at any paper target, is you take your shots, they go in the back room, score them, they come out, they announce the winner, they post the scores. So he had his entourage take him to the shooting event. They took him there. He's sitting in the audience just watching people shoot. Has no idea what the scores are, has no idea what people are hitting. And he asks them, how does this work? And they tell him, yeah, they're going to score them after the match, and they find out. And he says, well, that's not very interesting, is it? And he laughed. And he was right. I mean, there's nothing for the spectators if they're shooting on paper targets. So it was after that that electronic scoring was implemented, and then also a concept of a finals. And a finals is a lot more interesting to watch. And that's what you're going to see if you watch the Olympics on TV. You'll only show the finals. For air pistol, what they do, and they do change the rules from time to time. The way they do it now, that they've mostly been doing for about the last 10 years. They've done it in the last 3 Olympics. They've played around with different rules since then, but none have caught on. What they do is the top 8 make the finals, and they're brought back out. They're allowed to do what's called sighters. It's like a warm-up for about 5 minutes. Well, actually, exactly 5 minutes. Their names are announced, and the crowd applauds. And they take 5 shots, and they're allowed 4 minutes and 10 seconds, which is 50 seconds per shot. Then the scores are announced. You can actually see them in real time if you're on the stands because they're on a big screen. They do another 5 shots in 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And then after that, you take 1 shot at a time. You have 50 seconds per shot. And you do have to train a lot for how the finals works because it definitely feels very different in a finals. And then after every even numbered shot, whoever's in last place gets eliminated. So after 22 shots, there's 2 shooters left. They're allowed 2 more shots, and then the first and second place is awarded them. So that can be pretty exciting, especially because if you're actually at the event, the announcers at finals will usually encourage the spectators to be very loud. So there's going to be a lot of noise in the room, and you do have to train for that as a shooter. You have to be able to train with noise in the background. One thing that I do is I have a projector that I had bought because I paint as a hobby, and I bought a projector to project onto the canvas so I could trace and then go and paint later. And I got the idea of plugging in the projector to my phone and projecting cartoons onto the target. I turn off the target lamp, so all I see is moving cartoons, moving very fast, and then I crank the volume of it so it's loud. I see movement, and that's how I train with distractions. So it really forces you to be accustomed to that. So I've been in about 10 or 12 finals so far, and I don't really hear the noise anymore. If people are loud behind me, I don't hear it. I'm focused on just one thing and one thing only, and that's it. I do get nervous. I still do get nervous. As a matter of fact, the first finals that I went fairly far in, it was my 3rd final that I'd ever been to, and I won the gold medal. But when they're down to about 3 or 4 shooters, I look down and my shirt, I'm literally seeing my shirt move with my heartbeat. I'm so nervous. My heart is racing on me. And it was a close final. I won, but not by very much, and against a very good shooter too. And a month later, I was competing again in another finals, and I finished 2nd. And the winner was a young woman by the name of Suman Sangar, an outstanding shooter, terrific person too. And she's on the USA national team. And I told her that story, and she's been in international finals, and she said, "Oh yeah, it still happens to me too." So at least I know it was in good company. So that's how air pistol works. It's definitely very different from a lot of other shooting events. I know a lot of people do what's called practical shooting. So there's the USPSA, United States Practical Shooting Association, I think is what it stands for. And that's kind of often called run and gun, where they have almost like a service pistol at their side, and they're running, stopping, shooting very rapidly on a target, and they're timed. So the faster you go, the better. Here, there's no advantage to going fast, and the pistols themselves, you can only load 1 pellet at a time. So every time you fire, you have to stop, reload, put another pellet in, and go again. So there's no rapid fire in this. And there's different types of shooting sports. There's some called bullseye, which I've not personally done, where it's usually longer distances and you shoot a lot more. I think it's over the course of a match, you'll shoot, I think, 270 shots as opposed to 60 here. So those can be a lot more mentally draining. because mental focus is a big thing. And I'll talk about that a lot in some of the videos as part of the mental health aspect of this, because that kind of goes hand in hand. You have to be able to calm yourself on a shooting line, and that transfers pretty well to just being able to calm yourself in any stressful situation. So I'll talk about that more in other videos, but that's basically how Olympic style, or ISSF, International Shooting Sports Federation, air pistol works. So if you're interested in trying it yourself, if you watch this far in the video, thank you very much. If you're interested in trying this yourself, if you're from either the United States or Canada, I will put a link in the description for both of those shooting federations. If you live elsewhere, you'll have to Google. I don't know those shooting federations. I'm a dual citizen. I live in the United States, and I'm a member of both federations. And I'm actually trying to get on Team Canada, even though I live in the United States. But since I am a citizen of both. And if you do want to try and you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I will be sure to read them. And good luck out there. It is a lot of fun to do. I find it to be very zen, very calming for me. Take care, everyone.